Stripes are a fun way to add color and interest to your knitting. But what do you do with all the extra ends? Welcome to Sheri Knits. I love knitting and I want you to love it too. Today I'm going to show you how to control those extra ends, yarn management when you're working stripes on a flat piece. Let's get started.
Let's take a look at stripes. And when you're making stripes on a flat piece, maybe a scarf or a blanket or a sweater that's going to be seamed together, how do you manage the yarn going up the side for your stripes? If you are making stripes that are an inch or less, you can easily carry the yarn up the side to manage that yarn. But if I'm doing something that has stripes that are wider than an inch, then I typically cut the yarn and just attach it again when I need it. You have more ends to weave in, but it does, I find, give you a better finished project, because if you run a strand of yarn up too far, you run the risk of it being pulled too taut and it will affect your finished edge. So what I like to do is limit running the yarn up to an inch stripe, and it's really easy to do. Let's take a look. So right now I would be ready to bring this new yarn up, and these stripes are definitely less than an inch in height. And so instead of starting to knit with this yarn, I'm going to pull it to the side and I'm going to bring the new yarn up to the right. So I would just go ahead and enter that stitch and then bring it up and knit my stitch. Now, once I've knit that stitch, I don't want this to be too tight along here. So I go ahead and I usually pull it down just a little bit so that it's not too loose, so fingers are going to get caught in it, but you don't want it too tight. So let's take a look at that again. When you first pick it up, instead of picking up this yarn, your working yarn, I usually tuck it to the side, off to the left, and bring the new yarn from under and to the right. So it's on the right side. And then you can either pull this down as you knit that first stitch. That will actually help this to stay nice and loose, or just make sure that you loosen that up a bit after you knit it, and then continue going. And what this does is it provides just a nice kind of a swoopy edge here with your yarns that you're running up. So you can see them, and here they are, but see they're pulled, like you can pull this and they're not too taut, but they're not too loose when it's not pulled. And so you just run them up and they look nice and consistent and kind of swoop around each other. Now, if you were working something and you decided you wanted to run your yarn up, I'm just going to undo this so I can show you how you would manage that. So if you decided that you wanted to run your yarn up and your stripe was more than an inch, and let's just say we're going to continue with the beige color, you'd want to catch this white in the middle or maybe even a couple times as you go. So you're going to kind of act the same as if you were switching color, where you pull this over, you're going to pull this up, but then instead of knitting with it, you're going to drape it over that beige yarn and then just pull the beige yarn up. So you're basically just catching it there, and then you can knit. This, though, if you decide to do this technique, it becomes especially important when you do finally attach the white yarn to work it, that you make sure that this doesn't get pulled too tight. So when you finally do attach your white yarn, you want to make sure that these strands aren't pulled too tight and your edge gets puckered there. But that is definitely a possibility for you if you just feel like, oh, I hate weaving in ends and I don't want to have, you know, all those extra ends of the stripe. So right now I'm going to take it out and just show you one more time real quick. If you wanted to catch the yarn, basically what I would do is try to catch it at least every inch or even a little more frequently. So this comes over, this one comes up and it lays over the yarn, and then you would just do that simple twist and continue working with your yarn. And that is how to manage your yarns, how to run the yarns up the side as you're knitting stripes when you're working a flat piece. I hope you give it a try and you find that it's really easy to use. You can do it. Remember, you are the boss of your knitting.
Have fun knitting stripes, and if you need a pattern to try out this technique, click the link below. And I have a pattern on Ravelry called Three's a Charm, a really simple and sweet baby blanket that you can test out this technique. See you next time.